Good evening, Philippines. Good morning, good afternoon, people of the world. Welcome to another interesting episode here at the English Blog. My name is Adrian.
I'm PJ.
And I'm Sarah.
We are a blog of English teachers by English teachers for English teachers.
Today's episode is tips for living and teaching abroad. The English blog provides customized lesson plans, curriculum mapping and unit planning, life and career coaching sessions, weekly vlogs such as this one, and blog posts related to ESL education. You can send us a message at www.theenglishblog.com. You can subscribe to our website and stay up to date on all of our exciting new posts and offers and updates.
Don't forget that we are also on social media. You can find and follow our Facebook page at the English Blog, and make sure to follow us so you can be notified for all our future videos. We are also on Instagram at _English_blog, LinkedIn at the English Blog. You can also watch all our previous episodes on YouTube. Do search for the English Blog, and if you're interested in us, we're also on Twitter. Our page name is the English Blog 1. Please like, follow, share, and subscribe.
All right, and while you guys are at it, no matter which device you're watching us from tonight, don't forget to like and share this video to your family and friends so that they can benefit also from the wealth of wisdom that we're going to be sharing with you tonight. So let's get to the first question, and that is, what programs are out there for teachers who want to teach abroad?
So there are lots of different programs if you want to teach abroad. We just published a blog post about international language exchanges, which are government-run programs that I personally highly recommend. I've done 2 of them, but there are many more. Open to Filipino candidates and people from all over the world. You can go to Spain, Japan, Korea, France, Georgia, Chile, and those are great programs. Adrian, do you know any more, the private ones?
Yeah, sure. They can also have an option to volunteer as an English teacher abroad. And they can also go through an agency. Like, for example, one time I tried applying for this agency that sends English teachers to Spain. And the name of the website, if I'm not mistaken, is medias.es. That's
I know Medias.
Yeah, M for Mary, E, D for David, E, A, S for Sam, .es as in España. So go ahead and check that out. And for us who are non-native English speakers and teachers, you guys can check out so many Facebook groups that offer English teaching jobs for non-natives. These are usually for Taiwan, Japan, China. So go look up Facebook groups for English teachers, and I'm sure you'll find many different opportunities out there for you all. What are the pros and cons of living and teaching abroad?
I'll talk a little bit about living abroad. So I'll start with the cons. So I would say that the 3 biggest cons about living abroad are the visa hassles, and there can be a lot of bureaucracy, a lot of paperwork to maneuver, and if you miss deadlines, that can cost you time and money, a lot of money. So you've got to be really, really careful about all the immigration stuff. Definitely don't ignore it. The second thing would be the high cost of living. So a lot of people who go abroad think, oh, I'm going to have a much bigger salary, especially if you're coming from still a developing nation like the Philippines. And but one thing you've got to remember is that part of that is definitely going to go to your day-to-day expense, your rent, and whatnot. So you might, I would suggest that you have realistic goals of how much you're going to save and wherever you go. And the third thing I would say is that sometimes it can be a little bit difficult to develop a sense of community, and initially it can be very lonely. But the big pro of living abroad is that um, it is invaluable life experience that nothing else can take its place. And the way that it's going to make you grow and evolve as a person, the way that it's going to color your perspective for the better, give you a richer and fuller picture of what this world is really about. I mean, there's nothing else in the world that can replace that. And it's only going to, contribute to your growth and evolution as a human being. So, there.
Yeah, exactly what PJ said. If you want to teach abroad, the first step is wanting to live abroad because you can teach English where you are. So in order, that's why I chose to go abroad. It wasn't originally because I loved teaching. It was because I wanted to live abroad. I wanted to learn a new language. That I would say is a super pro. If you are learning a new language or you want to me, there's no real better way than immersion. And there's no better immersion than spending your entire life there and having to do everything there around people that don't speak your native language. It is not for the faint of heart. It can be, as PJ said, it can be very isolating, especially if you don't speak the language of the country that you're living in. But it is also extremely rewarding. And even with just a 9-month contract, a short-term thing, you will leave with much higher language skills. If you're after that, you'll leave with hopefully an increased sense of confidence, because you probably are going to be there alone, without your family, without people to help you, and quite frankly, oftentimes without a lot of people from your home country. And you kind of gotta go with the flow, and you will become, I think, a better person as long as you can handle the isolation and grow through that initial rocky period. You can really blossom. So yeah, I guess that is a pro and a con. You kind of do need to know yourself, which is why I recommend trying out a really short-term program before you commit to living abroad long term. I like the 7-9 month contracts. And if you hate it, it has a final date and you're going home. And if you love it, you extend.
Spot on. I agree with what you guys have said. And speaking of not for the faint of heart, and speaking of isolation, that's what we're going to talk about in this next question. What are the different stages of culture shock? How do you cope with culture shock with a capital K? It really is a big culture shock when I first work overseas, because that's the first time that I've ever gone abroad. I haven't even traveled overseas yet. And of course, the first stage would be maybe excitement for some of us who are first timers, but there will come a time when there will be a sense of denial and sometimes resistance as well, because it's like everything is going at you in a really fast paced. How do you cope with culture shock? I'd say you have to be vulnerable enough to be comfortable with ambiguity, because life is filled with so many surprises. Some of them are unpleasant. And vulnerability does not mean weakness. It's actually courage. And it takes a lot of heart to be able to embrace the uncertainties of life. And of course, you're going to need the support of your family and friends too. So make sure that you often get in touch with them, no matter which way, whether that's social media or Viber or WhatsApp. But it's very important that you still keep your connections. What do you think, PJ?
I think we can start off with a quote by Walt Whitman, which is, "Be curious, not judgmental, and that will guide your life abroad." It's a magic filter you can put on. I studied cultural anthropology in college, and so one of the ways I culture shock, because I've lived in like 4 different countries, And I look at these places as a way to learn about people in different parts of the world. Right? Part of it, you're gonna experience this resistance, right? Because of course there might be a little bit of contrast from where you come from in terms of values, in terms of behavior, things that might seem weird or unfamiliar to you. And that's okay, notice that this is what you are experiencing, but realize that it's part of the process and not your final destination. So just continue to have an open mind. And I think, they say what you resist persists. So if you can just embrace the changes occurring as they happen, it'll be a much less uncomfortable experience. You don't have to add that suffering of resistance to it. And that will actually help you with the second question, which is how to cope. And I would echo Adrian's sentiment that it is very important to get in touch with your network regularly and really build it in as your routine. So even when you have these like isolating emotions and feelings, which they're going to come up, you're going to cry, it's okay. Again, part of the process, you at least are tethered to that habit, that ritual of being tied to your communities back home.
Okay, and since you're now ready to move on around this time, let's go to the next question because here comes your challenge. What are the differences between teaching English abroad and in your home country?
So yeah, I've taught both in the US in different states, and in Europe in different countries. And as somebody going from a native English country to a non-native English country, there's a big difference in who you teach. So in the US, I taught a lot of adult immigrants because the kids are in regular public school. And I also you teach a lot of multicultural people. You've got people from all sorts of different countries all in your classroom. Whereas when you teach abroad in a non-English speaking country, generally you're going to get monolingual classrooms and monocultural classrooms, which is a little bit of a different vibe. I think there's less of a difference if your home country is also non-native English speaking. And I think it also kind of depends on your community in your country. You might be in an area where you are working with a wide variety of people or the same type of people that you would work with when you're abroad. So yeah, it can be a little bit challenging to get over. If you're not used to teaching monolingual groups, I would say it's worth doing a little bit of research. Maybe we'll have a blog or a vlog on that to kind of prepare for that. And it can be a little bit difficult if you don't speak that language because your students will, and they all will. And you kind of need to adjust your classroom management style, and you can't rely on things that you once relied on in your home country. And you might have different types of students that need different types of things, depending on where you're from. Like when I taught in the US, it's adult immigrants. They need to know how to go to the doctor, how to apply for citizenship, that kind of thing. But then teaching in France, most of the jobs are for kids, whether you're in a public school or a private school or a language academy or whatever. So you might get a lot of kids, or you might get a lot of business people that really need business English. It's a totally different type of English you could be teaching, especially if you are living in a native English speaking country.
Thanks, Sarah. So now, how do you create a sense of community while abroad?
I would start with saying that you've really got to put yourself out there. So you can't rely on, you have all of these connections built in. Friends from high school, friends from college, family friends, friends of friends, and you sort of build your network in that way. Whereas, so it might feel a little vulnerable and unnatural at times, but I go into ethnic enclaves. So I'm Indian, so I might seek out like the Indian neighborhood in place. You know, like when I was living in New York, I would go visit Queens and eat at the Indian restaurants there and just like be around Indian people. You know, and I grew up in the Philippines. So when I was living in San Francisco, I would go to buildings that had NGOs that catered to Filipinos, would get the calendar and find out what kind of social events they might have. Um, Another great way is to volunteer. I mean, wow. I mean, you'll just meet such a wide variety of people, you know, and you'll be doing something good and productive for the world and sharing your gifts and serving others. So it'll be doubly rewarding in that sense.
Yeah, it's important to build multiple communities wherever you are, abroad or not. And when you teach abroad, oftentimes part of your job is to create a community there in your classroom, a new community that exists that combines your culture and their culture in a totally unique community that cannot exist outside of this classroom. So I always find a lot of strength and happiness by building my community with my students, both when I was abroad and I taught English in the U.S. in a totally new state where I knew no one. So yeah, if they're adults or your private lessons, don't be afraid to like bond with these people. These are the people that you know in this country now, and you know you could count all the people you know in this country on a hand. And also, as PJ said, seek out stuff in your community, and you will get lonely, and you will want to be around other people or familiar foods. I always look for like a burger restaurant and milkshakes. That's what I'm after. But also try to do activities, try to join communities that already exist that you otherwise would have had nothing to do with in your own country. The most popular ones that I have seen done myself or had my friends who are also living abroad do, I love like sport classes, teams, or groups like that. That's a great one if you have low language skills because it's very physical and you can follow along. Church is a big one. You can still do all of the stuff that you love to do in your home country, but now you're just doing it abroad in a new way. And it's going to feel unfamiliar, but parts of it are going to be nice and familiar to you. Like knitting groups, craft groups, just depending on where you are, they might be super friendly. They might be more friendly than people in your own country. So yeah, you got to get out there, put yourself out there. Don't be afraid to look foolish and make mistakes. But you're going to find plenty of nice people who want to be in a community with you.
For sure. So I'm actually excited for those of you who are watching this vlog. And you guys have heard it straight from the horse's mouth. These guys have lived and taught abroad. I have lived abroad. I have not yet taught abroad, but it's really a wonderful experience. Now we're down to the last question. How can you better prepare yourself for life in a foreign country?
I like to find the best spots in a foreign country. I think the first thing you should is get excited because this is the beginning of a new beautiful adventure. Okay, so you gotta suck the marrow out of life in this new country. So find out the best things that they have to offer. Things that you can only find in this place, things that are unique, things that are beautiful, things that are exciting, because even if you're alone, if you're doing things that that you have, that's again spark your curiosity or are already in line with your passions, even if you're alone, you're going to have a good time. Okay, so research, 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 and that applies to other things too. Like I would say, it's really valuable to look at some of the customs and etiquette of a country. I would say it's important to fitting in and being polite because, people generally want to deal with a polite person more. And when you're living in a foreign country, it's good to have people want to help you, because you're going to be at a disadvantage a lot of the time. You're going to need that kind of support from strangers. So uh, that's a place to start.
Yeah, I super agree with what PJ has mentioned. And in terms of research, that's what I did before I started working overseas. I started watching videos in relation to the kind of workplace that I'll be going to. And I also did watch some YouTube videos in relation to the kind of culture, the places that we'll be going to um, have, and also because that's new territory for you. It's you who has to do a lot of adjustment, not the people there, because you will be part of a minority group, right? So you will have to do the most adjustment in your life. But of course, don't forget to also follow what PJ suggested earlier, to look for exciting ways to have fun, because that will boost your motivation further as to getting excited to the new life that awaits for you out there. Do you want to add anything else, Sarah, as we conclude?
Yeah, I love what PJ said. You need that excitement, you need that hunger and curiosity. And then I think the other half of that is you do need to kind of emotionally and also physically let stuff go. You need to come there with as little as possible, and you will find that your life is so much easier without all of this baggage, whatever it is, whether it's 17 suitcases or all of your baggage from your past life, because you need to have space to let this new country and this new experience and this new you come into being. And you can't do that when you are lugging a bunch of suitcases around cobblestone, and you can't do it when you're sitting there cranky and comparing everything to how it was done in your home country and mad at all these weird social customs. You've got to be open and free. So before you even go, start freeing yourself, rid yourself. It's an amazing experience to fit your life into one suitcase. And no, go there and survive. And that is, I think, the best way to do it. Leave space for all of these new things to come into your life.
I just laughed at what Sarah mentioned about the 17 suitcases, because I didn't have 17 suitcases, but I for sure had an overloaded baggage at the airport, and I had to do something about it. So I know we're in COVID times right now. We're in the pandemic, and most countries are closed in terms of traveling. But this is actually a good way for you guys to prepare yourself for hopefully next year, when we're finally able to go back to traveling again and working overseas even more.
And I just want to add too, if you're nervous about COVID or the language schools that you are looking at aren't hiring, you really should consider some of these government programs. Now, one of the great advantages they have over these private language schools is that they're guaranteed. You have a guaranteed salary, and in all the countries, the government is ultimately responsible for you. So they can't fire you, they can't leave you destitute, and that you will get the visa. The visa process is much simpler, and if you're in any country that has some sort of travel ban and you are trying to go there or you want to move abroad, this can be a good way to do it, because you can't get there the other ways. So yeah, take a look at our blog post posted Monday, international teaching programs, and check those out and start planning for next year. And some of them even hire by the semester, so you might be able to go in the spring.
Yeah, and I remember Sarah mentioned this offline, or when we were having a Zoom session, that some of them have deadlines in December. Is it?
Yeah, a lot of them. So if you are Filipino and you would like to go to Japan to teach, or Georgia, there's one more I can't remember. Then you need to, the applications will open. That's what it is. Georgia's open now, so you can go to that link if you want to go to Georgia. Japan and Chile will open early October. That's what their announcement on their website says, it is coming soon, if not immediately. So it's in the next couple of weeks. Those applications run to December. If you're interested in going to Spain, that application opens in January and runs through April. So yeah, you got to get started to put some documents together if that's something that you're interested in. Don't forget that the English blog is always here for you. We provide customized lesson plans, curriculum mapping, unit planning, life and career coaching sessions, and weekly blogs such as this one, and blog content related to ESL education. Send us a message either at our website or here on Facebook. We also love topic suggestions. So if you have anything that you want to see in future vlog or blog content, let us know. And subscribe for exciting offers and updates, everything from us.
We would love to hear from you. Please do follow us on social media. Make sure you subscribe to our Facebook page, The English Blog. Check us out at Instagram at _English_blog. We are also on LinkedIn. Look for our page name, The English Blog. If you want to check out our past videos and our past episodes, go to our YouTube. Simply type The English Vlog with a V. And we are also on Twitter at The English Blog 1. Please do like, follow, share, and subscribe.
Okay, and for those of you guys who are watching us who have experience teaching and living abroad, either teaching or living abroad too, please do leave us a comment in the comment section and let us know what you guys think. I'm sure you have tips to share as well. So thank you once again. Stay safe and healthy and keep learning. Bye, everyone.